graders, and welcome to lesson 7-7 on circumference and area of a circle. So here's our vocab for circles. We've got circumference, that's the distance around the circle. We have the radius, which is a segment that starts in the middle and goes all the way to the perimeter. We have a chord, which is a segment that has two endpoints on the circle, but does not go through the middle. And we have a diameter, that's a chord that passes right through the center. Okay? So you need to know those terms. You've learned them every year since at least 5th grade, because I've taught them in 5th grade. If you don't know them, memorize them now. Here's the two formulas you need to know. So we have circumference, the distance around. You learned that as pied. So pi d, pied. I recommend you memorizing this one because the second formula you could use is 2 pi r, and that's because 2 times the radius equals the diameter. So if I'm multiplying the diameter times pi, it's the same thing as multiplying the radius times 2 and then multiplying that times pi. But you're more likely to mix them up if you think of circumference as 2 pi r and area is pi r squared, than if you think of it as pied. Because at least this has a d and it doesn't have any r or any 2 in it. So I think you should learn that one. The area of a circle is the product of pi and the square of radius, r. So this formula is pi r squared. And you need to know that as well. Remember, because of order of operations, when you're squaring something, you always do that first and then you multiply it times pi. I also will mention that we've learned pi as 3.14. Using the button pi on your calculator will give you a more accurate answer than just rounding it to 3.14. But if you were doing it shorthand, you certainly could use this. It also is the same thing as 22 sevenths. So you probably haven't learned it as a fraction, but if you want to memorize it as a fraction, if you like working in fractions, that's what pi is as a fraction. All right, here's our examples. So find the circumference and the area of the basketball hoop at the right. So the circumference equals pied. The diameter of this is 45 centimeters. So circumference equals 45 times 3.14 or times pi. And when I do that in my calculator, let me show you the difference. 45 times 3.14 equals 141.3 centimeters. If I use the pi button, 141.37, and that would round up to 141.4. So as you can see, it sometimes will affect your answer. Make sure that you are just following the directions of what they say to do in the directions. Okay? Pi r squared for our area. So I have 3.14 times the radius. To find the radius, what do I need to do? I need to divide 45 by 2 because the diameter is the whole way across. So dividing that by 2 gives me 22.5, and I'm going to square that. So what do I need to do first? I need to do 22.5 times 22.5. If I'm using my calculator, I have to make sure I hit equals there, because if I do that and then I multiply, and I go to the next step, sometimes students get really mixed up there. So make sure 22.5 times 22.5, and now I have 3.14 times 506.25. And as an answer, I get 1,589.625 centimeters squared. Now, if I used my pi key on my calculator, I would have gotten 1,000 590.431. So as you can see, yet again, it makes a difference on what you're doing. All right, go to the second page and do this example. Find the circumference and area of the circle at the right. Round to the nearest tenth. Okay? And I don't care whether or not you use a calculator for pi or if you use 3.14, but I want you to write what you did up here. Either that you used a calculator or that you used 3.14 for pi. All right, another type of question. Find the area of the front of the mailbox. So in this case, I need to apply it to break this down into smaller pieces. So this shape right here is made up of a rectangle and a semicircle. I'm going to find the area of each. Let me start by finding the area of the semicircle. So in order to find the area of this, I'm going to need to do pi r squared. So I'm going to take half of the radius, which is 5, and I'm going to be doing 5 squared times pi, which is about 78.5 inches squared. And then I'm going to find the area of this rectangle, which is just going to be the base times the height. And so I have 7 times 10, which equals 70 inches squared. And then my last step is to add them together. So I have 70 and 78, which is 148 inches squared. Go ahead and try D to find the area of the shaded region. Oops, this is the shaded region. So find the area of this, not counting. You're going to take out this semicircle. There's 2 ways to do that. Do which way you would like to do, and bring in your final answer. Go ahead and get to work.